unfortunately, Kevin is not gonna go on this trip with us.
What?
Because he went last year. So he has the tips for us this year of how to shoot in the Slot Canyon. So Kevin's gonna give us a little presentation first. And Cal is agreed to videotape so we can have it online for those people that couldn't be here, like Bruce and some people that are in Wisconsin and elsewhere. And then after that, we're gonna talk about the maps that we sent out and all the plans for the trip. So Kevin, we'll let you take over.
Okay.
So where's dim the lights? You gonna get the lights
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
Put that in slideshow. Huh? You put that in
Put it in a
slideshow.
slideshow.
And how do I do all? How do I do that?
You just do the little notes.
Bring up the corner, squeeze it up. It's a slideshow.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
All right, so good morning. Yes, we did a very similar trip last year. We did Antelope Canyon, we did Lake Powell, kind of did Utah, a little bit of
A little louder.
Marble Canyon. I don't know if you're going to Marble Canyon or not, but that's kind of a cool place. Right in the same area, and the Horseshoe Bend, there's lots of cool stuff there. Anyway, so I'm going to share my experiences with photography in the photographing the upper Antelope Canyon last year. So next slide. So we visited the canyon at the end of April last year. You know, every time you go someplace, you never know if it's going to be what you hope it to be, better or worse. But the canyon certainly exceeded my expectations. It's pretty long. It's pretty amazing. So I was very happy with that. This is the only time I've been there, so I don't have a lot of experience. The key is that shooting conditions are very, very challenging. And so this is a very high dynamic range situation, right? A lot of bright light, a lot of dark shadows. And so that's really the key thing that you got to think about when you go in there. I had my strategy for going in there. I had kind of backup strategies, and you know, my primary one worked, and I'm going to share how I did that today. But I can't claim this is optimized, and you know, there's certainly probably some other ways it could do it if you wanted to. Excellent. So the slot canyons, right? So they're very thin. Depends on some places they're thinner at different spots. This particular one is very thin at the top. If you're standing above it, you can hardly tell there's a canyon there. So it's in the shape of an inverted V, and you spend your time walking on the canyon floor. So it's wider, and then it narrows to the top. There are no bags allowed, so be prepared to carry stuff. Whatever you're carrying, you have to carry it. No purses, backpacks, camera bags, nothing. And unfortunately, no tripods, monopods, gimbals, anything that supports a camera. So you're going to have to shoot handheld. And I understand some of you are doing the tour of the Canyon X. We've had a photography tour there. And that'll probably be a little more lenient on some of these things, I suspect. So what to expect? Well, the first very annoying thing that I didn't really expect was the tour guide would be constantly throwing sand and dirt into the air to assist you to be able to visualize the light beams. Unfortunately, the dust, you know, it's not uniform, right? So there's a bunch of clouds in the canyon, and it's kind of hard to shoot for that stuff. So I found that very annoying. There will be a tour in front of you and a tour in back of you, and they do a pretty good job of kind of having the tour in front of you go out just around the bend so you can't really see them in front of you where you're shooting. But likewise, there's a tour behind you, and inevitably there's people kind of in your way. So just be aware of that. So I spent a lot of time kind of shooting up over the people, shooting away from the dust. And yeah, so like I said, that totally caught me by surprise. Okay, so what are we dealing with here? Well, there's very, very low light in the canyon where you're standing, but there's bright light at the top, slot basically, and then on the sides of the canyon they're very bright. So you have very high dynamic range. So that's really the key with photographing it. Very close quarters. So you want to think about wide angle lenses because it's really hard to kind of capture all that stuff. Again, you have to hand hold your camera, so that presents some challenges. And you may have to rely on some settings or some techniques that you're not necessarily familiar with. And this is true for any mirrorless DSLR cameras and your cell phone. And I'll go through some keys on how to shoot each of those. So for me, I like to be prepared for most everything. So I really give a lot of thought about how I was going to do this going in there. Again, I wasn't sure it was going to work, but really kind of, if you want to make sure that you're going to get some nice photos out of there, just be prepared. I will point out that the guy that we had, and I suspect they're similar, he was very knowledgeable about all cell phones, and he was very good at helping people adjust the cell phone settings. I'm not sure how familiar they are with interchangeable lens cameras. I didn't really get a chance to chat with him because I was busy doing my own thing. Okay, so high dynamic range. For cell phones, this is kind of the settings I've found for cell phones. So most cell phones, if you have a newer cell phone, it probably has automatic HDR or high dynamic range, or you can set it into HDR. So, but it's good to know that which one your phone does, and also there may be a switch to turn on the auto or smart HDR. So just check that. Again, wide angle, you're going to be very close up to things. So most cell phones have like a 0.5x, so you can get more of a wide angle. You might want to consider doing a panoramic view, but more going this way than most of us are used to kind of doing this on our cell phone. But you might want to do it this way. Might be interesting. They recommend that you kind of change the white balance of your camera. So I think at least on the Apple phones, there's kind of a vivid setting, or you might have to change something to warmer. And from what I understand, that it doesn't really the same as post-processing. It's better to do that when you're taking the photo, may not turn out as good after the fact. And so you want to do that so you can kind of get all that nice red color. So just consult the internet for your specific model, phone model, and make sure that, again, that you know exactly what your phone's going to do. And again, the guide was very helpful in our situation for people taking pictures of the cell phones. Okay, so this is the setup that for a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. You can use exposure bracketing. Most cameras have a drive setting where you can actually do HDR settings, bracketing, and it will take different shots at different exposures to compensate for the HDR situation. What I did is I just took 2 shots, and that's really all you need. And so I really exposed for the highlights. So the shadows were completely dark. I have my camera to show me zebra, so I know what's overexposed. So I knew when I had the exposure set enough so that the sky or whatever brightness I was taking was in range, basically. But you also can refer to your histogram, right, and see if it's out of beyond the range. And then the second shot I take is exposed for shadows. So in this case, the highlights are completely blown out, but at least you can see in the canyon. And I would say I kind of did like this exposure bracketing. So I did kind of step it down just to make sure, again, it's one shot going through there. You want to make sure that you got something you can work with and come out the other side. And then I merged the images in post-processing in Photoshop, and there's different programs out there you can use to merge those together. Again, wide-angle lens. Use an aperture, which is going to give you nice depth of field throughout your frame. And you got to kind of, again, this is pretty dark, so you want to have your shutter speeds lower so you can get more light in. But you got to make sure that you can handhold your camera and not get it too blurry. And most cameras are pretty good for helping you do that these days with the image stabilization. So more specifically, I actually had 2 camera bodies with 2 lenses. I took in a 16 to 35 millimeter lens, and I also took in my 24 to 70 because I just wasn't sure how wide I was going to go or how narrow I needed to go. I could have easily left my 24 to 70 and the other body out because I never ever used it in the canyon. I always mostly shoot aperture priority, so my aperture is always set, and then I use a setting it's called ISO auto with minimum shutter speed. So the camera will shoot at the shutter speed if it only to change the ISO if it needs to. So ISO floats, but it basically maintains your shutter speed and your aperture. I shot at f11. My shutter speed ranged between 1/5 to 1/40th of a second, and ISO ranged from 100 to 5,000. So again, as I said, took 2 shots for each image. Not necessarily true. Sometimes I took multiple shots at different exposures, but then I just used 2 shots in post-processing to merge the 2 photos together. And in my case, I just used the exposure compensation dial in order to kind of adjust that. So it didn't, again, with the aperture priority, that's what I did. And then again, I aligned and merged the photos in Photoshop, and then I edited them in Lightroom. So I did merge it first and then edited it afterwards. Next slide. So this is kind of one example. So on the left here, I'm exposing for the shadows. So you can see that it can see in the canyon, but at the top it's pretty much blown out. And then contrast to that is the highlights exposure. So I'm exposing just for that sun coming through the top of the canyon and on the side of the walls, but you can't see anything in the canyon at all. So in Photoshop, take those 2, you align them, and then you merge them, and then, like I said, I did, just develop those in Lightroom. So,
Kevin, were you manually changing the exposures between these 2
yeah.
shots?
So again, I was just using my exposure compensation dial to do that. I have zebras turned on in my camera, so I can tell if something's overexposed.
Right.
So I just would turn it down. Sometimes I have a hard time. I get rid of the zebras, but sometimes the zebras don't go away, even if I go all the way down on my camera. So that's why I kind of turned it down some more, and then again, I didn't mind having multiple shots at the end, and then I had to kind of decide once I was at home which 2 I was going to use for merging. So, but the zebras you can use, or as I said, you can use your histogram to kind of help guide you on making sure that exposure, that your highlights are not going out. So,
Did you mask the sky or mask the rock and then change the contrast or whatever, or you just put the 2 pictures together?
put the 2 pictures together, and then in Lightroom, typical processing. Some photos were better than others as far as the sky. They're not all perfect, at least mine weren't. And but yeah, as far as Lightroom, there wasn't anything really spectacular I had to do and I probably sharpened them. I usually sharpen them in Topaz or something.
Did you have to do a blending mode on the merge
Nope.
with the 2 photos? So it's just geometrically.
Yeah, the first step is to align them, right? So in my case, Photoshop will make sure that everything's the same. And so since you're hand holding, they're not going to be perfect, right? So there's going to be some cropping you have to do to get rid of certain parts of it. Again, that's why you want that wide angle to get as much as you can, so that if you do have to crop it down, you're not losing what you really wanted. But yeah, just the align and then merge is all just the 2 steps in Photoshop.
One comment too, Kevin, for those of you who have a Sony RX10, that'll in-camera merge the HDRs. And you can set the ISO range all the way up to 6 plus or minus, or let it be automatic. It'll just take 3 shots, it'll stack them in the camera. You won't have to go, you can skip the whole step here with the Sony.
RX10, yeah, that's nice.
So I'm assuming with all the dust and dirt, you didn't want to change lenses and just stick with what you had?
No, and that's one reason I carry 2 bodies, so I can have 2
Yeah.
different lenses.
Each one of them.
And there's not only that situation, but often when you're traveling, you just don't know what you're going to need. And I'm always traveling with other people, and I'm sensitive to their time, and so I'm just kind of like running through and taking shots and hoping for the best. But that's why I've resorted to carrying two bodies, 2 lenses, so I can have a better range to hopefully meet my needs or desires as I'm shooting. And there's one more shot, or one more slide to show some other shots that I developed. And again, the guide's gonna be throwing sand and stuff everywhere, but it's one kind of cool thing where he threw it up on the shelf and it kind of came over like a waterfall. And that one for me, I just thought it looked better in black and white. So
It's cool.
Very nice.
anyway, so that's like I said, just be prepared, because there's some thinking you need to do. Like in Doug's case with RX10, if you have one of those, figure out how to do that, or talk to Doug, I'm sure he'll be happy to help you. But, you know, it's one of those situations where you're gonna go through one time, and, you know, I know I would be very disappointed if I got home after the trip and said, oh, dang.
Yeah, nothing worked.
Yes, so, anyway.
Been there.
Any other questions? And I know John said that you had a software that you can put on your iPhone that does HDR.
You know, so the iPhone or Adobe has another camera package for iPhones called Indigo. And Indigo seems to be a bit better. I don't, you know, Cal is probably more aware than I am, but the Indigo package seems to do a pretty amazing job with HDR. Better than the standard Apple package. After you take a photo and you go click on it to see it right away, it might say still processing in your phone because it's working on it. But it seems to do a bit better job than the default camera app.
So is Indigo a beta version? I've tried to put it on my phone and it crashed my phone.
Did it?
Yeah.
They have done their second version already.
Okay.
I didn't have trouble with it, so.
The first one was overheating some phones.
It was over.
Yeah, right. Well,
They have a new one now.
Okay.
Maybe I have the new one. I haven't had it very long, so that may be it.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, I wish you the, oh, yes, one more?
Would it be possible to, for you to email the slides to us? So we can print them out and take them with us? That's what I'm thinking.
I
Yeah, we'll be
I can
emailing
do
this
that
thing.
to the group.
On the website or someplace.
Thank you.
I can do either, because I have the group list and I have the slide if Kevin's okay with that.
That's fine. And I have, if you're looking at doing the iPhone or something like that, I came across some videos of people talking specifically about shooting at Elm Canyon with an iPhone. That's where I got a lot of this information. So, you know, if you inclined, you can also search for some of those videos and watch them just to get an idea on how, more specifically, how to operate that.
Were they mostly on YouTube?
Yeah, most of YouTube
Okay.
videos. Yeah. Anyway, have a great time. It's beautiful. All that stuff out there is fantastic. So
Great.
I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Y'all want this as a PowerPoint, or you want me to save them as PDF files? Does everybody have Microsoft's?
I think it was sent
Sweet.
to us as PDF, isn't it, Kevin?
It's PowerPoint.
This is a
but-
Power
Power
PDF,
PDF.
so
Yeah, you
for
can
anybody who
just-
doesn't have Microsoft,
Yeah, probably best to send out
speak now, or you'll
PDF.
get them as a PPTF.
That would be better, I think, generic.
Okay, I can just
Generic.
All right.
Pardon me?
I thought PowerPoint was pretty generic.
Yeah, you have to have a.
No, you have to have a license, and I don't know the free one from Google, what's it called, has Google Docs and all that package. It does not do everything that Microsoft does. You try the spreadsheet, you miss some equations that it just doesn't want to do, so I don't know. And I've used for the garden club for our slideshow, and I've had to go in there
PDF's fine.
Yeah,
and mess around trying to
PDF
get something.
too.
PDF, then everybody can open.
Yeah, for sure. All right, any last minute questions then?
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
Done. That's
Kevin,
okay.
Kevin.
That's
Okay.
Kevin.
You're done.
I'm done. I'll be here later.
You're a week.
Here,
All right.
cool.
Okay, so next up, Doug is.
Kevin, don't you want your flash drive?
What's that?
Your flash drive?
I did not. Yeah, let me know if you want me to send you the PDF version.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Kevin.
Bet.
One more question from this Doug behind.
No, it's to you guys.
Oh.
I don't know if we signed up for the Antelope Canyon or not. Do you have that information?
No, you have to look at your receipt to see what you signed up for. Most people, I think, were able to get in the upper canyon tour because they take just about everybody, and that's why it's crowded and there are two groups and you can't carry backpacks and tripods.
Do we have a common time?
10:45.
I think it was.
You're gonna see on this map that, or
Okay.
spreadsheet that Doug puts up here in a minute.
Okay, thanks.
Then I think only 2 groups were able to get the X Canyon tour, which was for photographers. And they only take 5 people, and they have a morning and an afternoon, and some of them were already full. So I think 2 groups were able to get the tours for for the photographers.
Okay.
And I think it's similar to what the Upper Canyon is, only they go slower, so you can use your tripods and set up to take pictures and not just do handheld. Okay, so, yeah, be sure and check, because I know it's very confusing when you look at Upper Canyon, X, what's this and that. Look at your receipt from your reservations, and they'll tell exactly where to meet. And also be in tune to the time difference. Kevin warned Shannon and I that, you know, the Navajo Nation is on Mountain Standard, on Daylight Standard Time, but
The state of
the
Arizona.
state of Arizona is not. So make sure your watch is set to go to the appropriate time for your excursion that you've signed up for. Okay, so Doug has put together the wonderful maps and spreadsheet to cover everything we are going to do on this trip. So Doug, it's yours.
We did the lights just a touch. Can you hear me back to the back, or should I get the mic?
Mike,
Okay.
can't hear you on there. I'll get them.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. This is a quick summary, if you will, and then we'll go through the maps also, there's a copy on that table back there. I hope everybody got one of each of the stack. Day one, we're heading, as you know, up to Grand Junction. In that box where it says dinner, that's red, and the next one. Those are the 2 group dinners that Shannon has organized. Okay? In Grand Junction, it's 4 p.m. And then under other suggestions there for that day is the Colorado National Monument. Now, has anybody here not been to the Colorado National Monument? Okay.
Really cool.
It's a must-see, and there's 2 options. So this is not, if you get into Grand Junction early and you want to go up into daylight, that's fine. Shannon is also planning, because his dinner is early, she's planning to do an evening shoot up in the National Monument. So you could actually go earlier after dinner and drive through the whole canyon. I'll show you a map. And then, or B, just go into the west entrance and do the sunsets. You could do either way.
Bring your national park pass.
And yes, bring
Your national park pass, even though it's a monument, still requires the same fee going to a national park.
So that's an option in Grand Junction, but dinner is at 4 o'clock at the Ocatilla restaurant. And while we're talking about maps, key thing, because all this area out here mostly is after you get off the interstate, you may or may not have cell phone service for a long ways. So download the maps. I say at least to include Grand Junction all the way down through Page and back into, depending on how you're gonna come back. Download the maps onto your cell phone if you use your phone for navigation. If you use your car navigation, not a problem.
And for your phone, I had to play around to get them on my cell phone, because it kept wanting to go to iCloud. It won't do you any good to have them on iCloud, because if there is no internet, you're not going to be able to access them. So you need to, I had to go to YouTube and figure out how to make it go to my iPhone instead of iCloud. So then you may also want to download regular maps from Google, and YouTube will help you to do that on your Android or iPhone in case we're in an area where you don't have internet reception.
Be aware that some phones and some operating systems will only retain those offline maps for 30 days. Doug hasn't had the problem, but if you don't go into them and refresh them, whatever, it could delete them, so be best not to download them before September 1st. That way you guarantee you'll have the maps and they'll be on your phone. because they might self-destruct and then you're stuck.
The advantage of downloading the entire map in Google Maps is you can reset your navigation while you're there. If you just download a trail like I'm gonna show you, if you just download that route, you can't change your navigation. So I really suggest download the whole map for the area, and then it'll be just like you had online service. You can change and navigate anywhere you want. Okay?
So when you're looking for these on YouTube, it'll say you want to download offline maps. And that will give you the instructions of how to do it for your particular phone.
All right, day two, we'll head off from Grand Junction, heading over to Blanding, Utah. The restaurant, the hotel will have a restaurant breakfast there in the Grand Junction one. And then one of the stopping points logically is gonna be Moab. That'll be about halfway over. So and that'll be probably the last major place to get a restaurant choice for lunch. The dinner is gonna be at the Homestead Steakhouse. That's at 5:30. And that'll be it once we get into Blanding, Utah. Okay?
It's the only restaurant in town, so don't miss dinner at 5:30 because they have bus floods coming in at 7, and you would be in with an even bigger crowd. That's a bus loads of 40 people. So it's the only restaurant in town. If you don't want to go there, there is a trailer that has pizza.
And then we're gonna show you on the map, but on the way there, there's a consideration where there's a side trip you can take that'll cover Bears Ears part of it, and it'll take you to the Canyonlands Needles District. This is the southern part of Canyonlands, very different than the northern part that we went to on our prior trip. It's a very beautiful area as well. And then, so I'll show you on the maps. The next day we leave Blanding. The direct route will take you to Monument Valley. There's only one place that we've eaten very often, and that's the Mexican Hat for lunch. It's a little joint. It's called the San Juan Cafe. It looks pretty tacky, but the food's not bad. And they have a hummingbird feeder there. That's a great option. Even with a cell phone, I was getting great hummingbird pictures. It was sidebar. That's when we get into Monument Valley. That's the night of the night shoot. For those who are doing that part. On the way, but going down from Blanding to Monument Valley, I'm going to show you on the map. What I suggest is take a longer route, and you'll leave and you'll go through. You'll do natural bridges. Then you'll come south, you'll do Moki Duck Way. You'll go through Valley of the Gods State Park and Gooseneck State Park. When I show you on the map, if you've done any or all of those, you can skip some of them. It's a natural way to cut out some and do others based on either time or preference. But I recommend them all. The least interesting one would be Gooseneck, because it's kind of a mini Grand Canyon. It's still very neat. It's the San Juan River coming through there. It's a very neat look, and you're right on the edge. If you don't drive into it, you can't do a Thelma and Louise. It's really wide open. The next day is Thursday. It's kind of an open day. Shannon has mentioned a classic place is the John Ford Point to look at, to go shoot. There's other things around the valley. On Friday, we'll leave Monument Valley, head over to Page, Arizona. That's a short drive. One of the options I've listed here is to do a little side trip down to Marble Canyon. Again, I'll show you on the map. Saturday is there's the Upper Antelope Canyon 1045. That's the one that's going to be very much like what Kevin just described. It's very restricted what you can do in there. Antelope X, I think we're in 2 groups for that. Some are you on Saturday, some are on Sunday. And that's going to be more of a proper photo tour. You can take your regular gear, as I understand from Shannon. Is that what you were saying?
I would just say, mention it again, like on 1045 Upper Antelope Canyon. I know that I have a tour earlier than that. So I would just say, make sure, look at your own reservation and see what time you signed up for. 'Cause we have an earlier time, and then we have the X Canyon in the afternoon.
Okay. All right. Then there's other things to see Saturday. Either if you arrive early or while you're there, or if you get in late Friday and you don't want to do Marble Canyon, Horseshoe Point is a don't miss spot. Is everybody here seen Horseshoe Point? If you haven't, don't miss it. It's about 5 miles south of town. You have to pay to park now. That is new. They didn't used to be able to walk right over to it, but now you have to pay to park. And you can, it's a stunning view of the Colorado River. It's a classic horseshoe picture you see of the Colorado River. Lake Powell itself is you can go into the dam visitor center. You get really good views looking down on the dam. You can see the water below the dam as well as above it. And then you can drive further up in the lake, and there's a marina back up in there, and it's some really pretty shots up in there. And then on Sunday is for those of us who are doing the Antelope X on Sunday, that will do, ours is at 10, and then that's the end of the organized trip. So, jump to the maps.
One thing before he goes to the map, for all these places that he mentioned there and that he will discuss on the maps, the other document that I sent to you was kind of an overview of where we were going. And I have links to each one of these places, and you can go on there and if you know how you have to use your control key and move your mouse over the link and then click it, and then it will open in your browser to the places that we're going to go with lots of images. So you'll see what you're going to get the opportunity to see on our trip. So that other document I sent you with the blue links are there for you to see where you're going.
Okay, so let's jump over to the first map, which is the Grand Junction to landing. It's called direct. On their map, you'll see there's two sides. There's on the one side it'll say direct, on the other side it's going to say scenic on your paper. This is the direct route. And again, if you have the maps offloaded, you can do exactly what I'm doing here. And now, this is the driving time is on here right now. It's about 3 hours and 10 minutes to drive from Grand Junction down to landing if you just drove straight through. All these times on here are driving times, and the distance, your time to stop and take pictures, obviously add to that. That'll give you a good ballpark. So if you want to do the Canyonlands thing, you scroll in till you get to the point you can see the road coming off here, which is this highway right in through here. It goes up into Canyonlands. This is the Needles District. So on your map, you'll see a little white dot appears here. When I put my cursor over there, I just draw it, I bring it out here to the loop, and now I've added the Canyonlands Needle Loop. It's that simple. But you see the driving time now is turned into almost 5 hours, because it's about an hour each way to go out there. So if you had a good early start out of Grand Junction, you could do all this. 5 hours plus your photography time. The two places you're going to photograph, a lot is right through here, coming down along, you're down along the Colorado River for 2/3 of the trip here. If you haven't done that road there, it's beautiful. And I would definitely suggest, you can go the other way, I-70, come down 191. This is far better. And then again though, if you want to go into here, into the Needles District, and there's a loop back there, and on that loop is when you'll see the mountains just to the west, what they describe as the whole range of mountains, and they've got just lots of little sharp spikes on there. It's a really pretty setting. And you're about 1/3 of the way in here, part of this is Bears Ears, and I think there's where that newspaper rock is, and there's some other stuff in here, so there's other things to see on the way out. Any questions about the first day, that day? Now I get to do that map again. Unfortunately, the copies I have are sitting on my server, but not on here.
While he's pulling up the map, I wanted to make a comment that Shannon said to share with you, that when we stay at the View Hotel, the food is okay, just don't expect it to be marvelous. So it's, she just wanted you to be aware, nothing we have control over, but in her past experience, which was many years ago, maybe it's better now, that the food is, don't expect a grand dining.
Okay, here's the next day, which is, we're gonna move from Blanding down to Monument Valley. And this is the direct route, it's only an hour and 20 minutes if you just drove straight through. Okay, that, you should have that on that map there. It shows the direct route from Blanding to Monument. Now, if you want to do this, and Lou and I have done this, and I highly suggest it, but you can do any or all of the parts. And I'll show you how that works. So I'm scrolling in a little bit, and this little squirrely thing up here, that's the loop of natural bridges. So again, come over here, get the white dot, come all the way out to here, and now you've added natural bridges. And it's a paved loop, it's an easy drive, there's not a lot of hiking, there's a lot of pullouts where the arches are, there's several stops, and you'll see the arches. The difference with these are gonna be, they're not up in the air, you're gonna look down in a canyon, and the arch will go over the canyon. It's a very different one than what you would have seen up in Arches National Park. But it's very pretty. This is also National Monument, also your pass works here. Now, so you'll go out there, you'll have to backtrack, you could backtrack all the way to the highway, but I wouldn't. You'll come down this way, and this takes you straight down, it goes right by Gooseneck, through Mexican Hat, and down to Monument. So that's option one, just to do this natural bridges and do this Moki Dugway. You see that knot there? That's Moki Dugway. That's what it looks like. That's it. The road is all paved except for these switchbacks. They're gravel, but it's a very nice road, and you'll see, I mean, some trucks could go down there. It's a nice road. Great photo ops as you do that loop. You're dropping 600, 800 feet from one plateau down to the next plateau. It's very cool. And you see that even on here, they've got several camera options for you. Shooting up. The next part of this thing, on the map, by the way, I put them all in there just to see what it takes. But starting here, you see this loop that goes up all the way, it's called the Valley of the Gods, and it comes out over here. Highly recommended, unless it's raining. This is a gravel road, and they could get muddy and slippery. I wouldn't do it. But if it's a nice dry day, it's beautiful back in there. This is freebie. So you start here, and you take it all the way up to the top, and that's what's on that map. You'll see that loop on there. You'll come out, this goes into west entrance, you'll come out the east entrance. You can continue right on down again to Mexican Hat, right into Monument Valley. Sidebar is this little one called Gooseneck State Park. And there you get the idea. Here's the San Juan River doing this loop right in front of you. So you look down, you'll see all that loop and part of another one. It's really a very nice view. So to get there, you start here on the highway, you come up to Gooseneck, and that's only like 5 or 6 miles. It's a very short drive. And you won't spend that much time there. You can walk along the rim, you can drive along the rim, take your shots, and head down. On the way, you'll see this Mexican Hat rock. You'll have to be watching for it before you get to Mexican Hat. It looks like a sombrero. It's a rock with a sombrero on top. Mexican Hat itself has a couple little restaurants. And then when you get down here, notice on the highway here, it says Forest Gump Point. When you zoom back out, it'll disappear, but right there where I'm pointing. So on the way here, right in this spot, is where, depending on the light, you'll want to stop and shoot the Monument Valley and the road going in there. That's the classic picture you see, the Forest Gump Point. You can, if the traffic's not bad, you walk out in the middle of the street and take a shot right down the road, and you can get the monuments at the end. It's a very classic shot. It's better in the morning. It'll be harder in the afternoon because the sun will be further behind it. But depends on, so if you go direct, you'll be there earlier, you'll have a better light. It's still good any time of the day. It's very nice. And you'll see lots of other people. I don't think you'll miss it. It's like seeing, if there's a bear up in Yellowstone, there'll be a lot of cars there. And people out in the middle of the road, that's what they're doing.
Would it be possible for you to send out recommended good places to shoot, some of the scenic spots that you've been mentioning?
Some of them I circled on the other map, but they're right. They're basically natural bridges, Moki Dugway. As you drive through Valley of the Gods, if you look on Google Maps, they highlight some shot places as well. You'll just see lots of stunning views and stuff to review there. It's a very pretty park. It would be a national park in some other states. I don't know. It's a state park for Utah. If your time is short, drop Goose Deck. If you have time, do it. Our dinner's not till 5:30 well, dinner's open, I think, that night. And then we have the night shoot later on that night. Any questions about that part? It's a fun drive. It's all easy roads. It's all paved with the very exception of Moki Dugway itself, but that's a very good gravel road. Valley of the Gods it's an easy gravel road. It's not like any cliffs or valleys or gorges or anything. It's just very, very pretty back there. There's lots of people free camp back in there. You can camp if you had your RV. You can just stay back there anywhere you like. You'll see vans just parked anywhere back there.
So one of our photographers is a little bit worried about all the switchbacks and the curvy roads. Is that going to be an issue?
No, it literally, you can pass cars around the curve. It's a wide, curvy road going down for the descent. It is nothing like, those of you who remember our Schaefer Trail, it's not nearly as narrow as that. And the Schaefer Trail is my gold standard. This is silver. Okay. Next day is we're moving over to, I'm going to put this down so I can start again here. Now we're going to start in mining calendar. Little page. Okay, on your map for this one going from Monument Valley over to Page, I think I did circle an area on there. It's mostly just dry, open desert, not particularly attractive, except right in this little area, right in through here. There's a really, really pretty spot. In fact, those of you who are flying drones or stuff, it's worth stopping, and you can fly the drone way up and you follow these canyons up with the drone, right from the road. There's not a good pull off or anything. But it's quite beautiful back in there. You can see it's only a 2-hour drive to get from Monument Valley over to Page. That's an easy day. That's why I mentioned one of the options would be, if you get into Page early and you don't want to do those other things that same day, you could run down to Marble Canyon. So let me do that. Okay, now, Marble Canyon, has anybody else here been over Marble Canyon, the bridge there? It's quite stunning. I see one hand in the back. This is the way you go to the north rim of the Grand Canyon. We were gonna go there, sidebar, except that time we all started booking, the chock-a-block full. They were booking early September for the whole lodge. And now subsequently, it's burnt down. So now, we can't go there at all for a while until they hopefully rebuild it. Half the cabins and the lodge all burnt down. So there's no place to stay there. It's a good 2 hours to get there. So it'd be really hard to get there either for a morning sunrise or a sunset shot. Yes.
They have a lot of that shut down. How far away from the canyon is it closed?
Oh, here it's not closed. The closure is over here.
Oh, a ways away.
Yeah, see, it goes from here down to here. This part here, see where it says Dragon? That's where the fire is.
Okay.
So this road up here along this hip, now that road itself is beautiful. These cliffs up here are Vermilion Cliffs. The Vermilion Cliffs is one of the release areas for the California condors. Remember a while back that they're a very severely hunted out bird. They rebred them up in Idaho. This is one of the release places. They had cages up on top of Vermilion Cliffs. And at Marble Canyon Bridge, there's now the old bridge has turned into a pedestrian bridge. There's 2 bridges there. You can park on this side where the visitor center is and walk out on this bridge. And the condors roost on the bridges. It's quite neat to see them. Even in the middle of the day, you'll have a good chance of seeing one or two. They come in mostly in the evening, but we were there in the summer, in the middle of the day last year, and we saw a couple of them there. So if you watch, you'll catch them flying in or out, or B, you'll see them perched underneath the bridge on the rafters over there. Now, the closer you get to them, the uglier they are. I mean ugly. And to make it worse, they've each got a flap, a big number tag on each wing, it's a big square thing hanging down, and some of them have a radio collar with an antenna sticking out the back. So you'll have to do a lot of editing on the photographs. But you can get some flight photos. They hang around the bridge, and sometimes right on the cliffs right there, because they then fly down the river to wherever they patrol for their hunting. If you have even more time, if you want to, right here is at that lodge spot is the Lee Ferry Road. We have not done it yet, but I may do it this time if I have time. If you go down there, that's where the raft trips put in. We're going to do the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. They start at Lee's Ferry. So it might be see just some fun activity down there. But it's right on the bridge though. You're looking down right on top of the river. It's very good. And then you can go along. You can see the cliffs here. You're driving below these cliffs. It's quite photogenic in there. Any questions about Marble Canyon? This is an hour, according to this map, it's an hour one way down there. 51 minutes.
Then you would just backtrack that to.
Reverse course, come back.
The other.
Okay, last map will do. Now it's just, sorry, do the Monument Valley. Just some quick comments about that. Monument Valley side. Over National Monument. So, our hotel, for those staying up here by the airport, is up in here. So I'll just use the airport as a starting point. But you can, no, sorry. Right in about here is the east entrance to the east entrance going into the park. And it starts getting photogenic. It starts getting photogenic from here. We'll make that the starting point. We'll go back up here from coming off of town. And then as you wind up, you're gaining altitude here, you get to the top, then you'll start to descend on the other side, and you come out into here. Fruta's right up here at the other end. This from here down to here is obviously a very short distance. So I'll draw that. Directions to, I'll route you over to Fruta on the other end. So now you can see if you just drove through the Colorado National Monument, it's only 30 miles, and you can drive it. It's an hour driving. There are lots of photo ops. If you go in the morning or early evening, you could start on the east side. If you go in the morning, you'll have the light will be coming in from all of these canyons here face east, so the canyons are going to be better lit in the morning. If you want to do a sunset, you could shorten it, drive to the west side, come up here, Independence Monument Valley, and a few others. There's a couple spots up there that are for evening or sunset shots. If dinner's early enough, you could drive through the whole thing and end up here on the west side for sunset. A couple options there. It's very short, it's very beautiful. At every turn, there's another canyon view. well paved, easy drive.
We were told that Utah says that the Colorado Monument is the introduction to Moab. But it's I don't know if they look anything alike, but it's beautiful, and we're gonna do it again. We did it when we went to Moab, and it's well worth it.
It's probably gonna be very feasible that since we're doing early dinner, we'll be done by 6. We could then head up and just head up and do the National Monument if you haven't done it. It's worth doing. And then get yourself on the west side where you start seeing some canyons and looking west, and that'll be some good sunset photo ops. Particularly the one out here is called Independence Valley. The Grand View, there's a Book Cliff view, there's a visitor center on that side, a good view. There's the Independence Rock, and you can see Grand Junction in the background. First, back in here is Grand Junction, so you're looking straight west, and the light sunset will go down through that area. It'll be very pretty. And Shannon really recommended that we think about doing sunset shots up there.
We may have opportunities to do sunrise, sunset, and Monument Valley as well. But our hotel is the perfect place to be for that.
Any questions? Anybody needs help on YouTube? Sorry, on the Google Maps, I'll show you how to download a map. It's easy. Those of you who have the Canon RX10s, if you want help with doing the HDR stacking, I'll show you how to do that too. It's a great feature. Plus, you got a 0, +6, -6. Stack them in the camera. It looks dramatically improved.
And for those that want to do the night tour and get up, leave at 10 p.m. and get home or back at 1:30 the next day to your hotel, John Huff has agreed to give us some lessons on doing night photography, and we may even try to go out on our own to another location that may not have quite the dark skies that we will have in Monument Valley, but give us some lessons, and then we'll try to go out on a night shoot to practice before we go on our trip. So we'll be sending that out pretty soon as we have a date for that. So, any other questions about the trip? Nancy?
Did you already send out that entire sheet that had all the columns and when we're having dinner and where we're having it?
I think I attached it
The calendar?
to the thing I sent. If I did not, I will certainly send that out.
I have inadvertently destroyed the email you sent with the maps.
I'll send it again.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Or a comment. So, happy to go out with the night shoot folks. And maybe we'll go out to Jackson Lake State Park. John Bell and I went out a while back. It is an official dark sky place. I don't think either of us were all that impressed with how dark it was. However, it's darker than here. And it would provide an opportunity for people to practice how to focus in the dark, all the things that we need to know when we go to Monument. We don't want to be trying to learn there. And I've already started creating a tips list. Turn down the brightness on the monitor on your camera, bring a flashlight, red light's better. This one I bought on Amazon. I think it's too bright, really. I'm gonna look for something to put over the end of it, but $9. Red light doesn't bother your eyes as much when you're out in the dark.
We recently heard that blue light was even better than red light, but I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
No?
I don't think so.
my experience has always been red, but
Okay.
anyway. Something with low lumens would benefit. I think we'll persevere on the night shoot. I mean, we're all not experts, and we're gonna have to look at our screen, and we're gonna have to do some things that, you know, that some astronomy people would probably freak out about, but we're gonna deal with it. We'll line up so we don't bother each other as much. But again, I'm happy to go with the group out there. The question is, I had the dates and now I don't. I think it's like
17th.
middle of next month. There's a period where the moon sets earlier, it's not up to bother us. And we could do like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. We'll probably start with the Tuesday, and if weather's bad, we could skip to the next day to drive out there and do that. The question would be, do we need to have any discussion as a group, you know, like here at the lodge, of those folks with their cameras in hand and talk about the things we need to know how to do when we get them?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, okay. All right, so while
I
talk,
vote
yeah,
yes.
maybe with some folks out to work with the lodge people, we can pick a date and bring the camera and we can sit in here at the table and go, okay, here's what you need to do. And on my Nikon, I can, you know, use the live view so I can see the image on the back of the screen, and I can zoom in on the brightest star and manually focus it till it's the smallest little pinpoint, and then don't touch the lens. And so those are the things that we need to know how to do before we're, you know, out in the middle of Monument Valley. Excuse me?
By touch.
Yes. You
Because you'll be
manually
working in the
focus your
dark.
lens, and then don't touch it again, because now, you know, you've got it. And so those are things we need to be able to practice before we're out there, and you come back with all blurry images and you're mad that it didn't work. And you paid $130 for the tour, and boy, it was a bust.
Some of us tried it in Moab, and it was such fun.
It is fun. It is fun.
It was really fun, and we did light painting. We have someone take a light and swish it across the image. And John has talked to the gentleman that's gonna lead our tour that said we're gonna see other than just the monument, some other,
Yeah, he says we're gonna go to some places that have some arches that we can shoot the sky through. You know, so it sounds fun, and, you know, with just a little practice ahead of time and familiarization with your camera before we get there in the dark. Because that, you know, I can't tell you how many times I've gone somewhere and then with a plan to do something, and then I can't even find the setting on the camera. There's so many menus, it turns into a mess. And so, and then, you know, there's always that thing the next morning when we're out in the daylight, remember to change all those things back. Or if you're still on manual focus, all your photos will be blurry or out of focus all the rest of the next day. You gotta remember a few little tips. So,
yes,
yeah, we'll work on that.
Moab was my first time, and it was kind of hard out there in the dark going, Tim, come shine that flashlight over here so I can see this dial on the top of the camera and this and that. So I think it's worth trying to get together and work on it together before we go, practice, and then we'll maybe be ready for the real thing by September.
Good.
So thanks everybody for coming, and thanks for all your work on it.